Alright guys, we are back in my garage for another video, and today we are finally headed back to the track. This is our first track day of 2024, and I'm super excited to go over here because we've got a lot of changes to the car. It's a new track, so we're going to learn a lot about driving the car, and overall this should just be an awesome experience. So we're on the road, headed that way. I'll tell you guys a little bit about how the car is set up now, and then we'll go ahead and go over how the car did. So hopefully you guys enjoy. Now, as always, for everybody that's new to the channel, I create these videos to help keep you updated on the latest developments in our community, as well as discuss technical topics so that we have a better understanding of how our engines work. So if you're interested in more videos like that, be sure to subscribe because there will be a lot more coming out in the future. So we are on our way to the National Corvette Museum Motorsports Park, and this is a brand new track to me. I've never been here before. It's actually a relatively new track overall. They built it alongside of the National Corvette Museum down in Bowling Green, Kentucky, and it's a really awesome track. If you guys look up videos, you'll see it's extremely technical. It's got a lot of elevation changes, tight curves. It doesn't really have a lot of really long straights, so it definitely challenges the handling of your car, and it's about like a 2.5+ minute track for most people, so it's much longer, like over double what I was doing at Putnam Park. And so yeah, I'm just really excited to go there and see how the car does. Now, along with learning a new track, we've got a lot of new mods on the car. Probably the most notable one is the Dynamic Autowerks Turbo. I have the UltraFlow X, and so we're going to be pushing it through its paces at the track with these sessions, making sure that it can handle the abuse, and also hopefully the car feels good with the extra power. We've also got some suspension upgrades. So last year I did my H&R sway bars, and I was able to add on the adjustable end links from SPL to help improve the balance and hopefully make that whole driving experience a lot better. So I'm excited to see how that does. I think the car just overall should feel more stable. It's not quite perfectly corner balanced, but it does give it a more neutral feel. Then we've also got the new CSF heat exchanger that should help keep my temps cooler, especially with this longer, more technical track. And of course, with the bigger turbo, I want to make sure the temps stay as consistent as possible. Even with the stock turbo beating on it after like 10 minutes or so, I started feeling the car pulling power. So my goal is to at least feel the car be consistent through a 20 to 30 minute session. So we'll see how the heat exchanger holds up with that. And of course, I have the H&R lowering springs. So again, last year at my last track day, or all of my track days last year, I had completely stock suspension. Now I have the H&R Sport lowering springs, which do lower the car, and I know a lot of people focus on that, lowering the center of gravity. But for me, the main improvement was more camber, because I maxed out my camber in the rear at around -1.5 degrees. Now with the additional lowering, I was able to get to -2 degrees. So that should give me more stability, allow me to get through turns faster, and just have overall better handling. So I'm excited to feel that as well. But yeah, we've got 3 degrees of camber up front, so I increased that. It should have nice balance, it should turn in really strongly. For everybody that hasn't seen my old videos, I also have H&R sway bars and M Performance LSD, Milway camber plates, and then of course the car is tuned with all of the mods on it. So I'm really excited to see how this does, and definitely hope that everything goes really well this weekend. Like I said, it's a technical track. There are some places where you can mess up, and this is going to be my first time there, so I'll probably take it easy at first, and as I learn it and get more comfortable with it, we'll try to get faster. I think 230s are probably a good goal. 220s is usually where people are considered pretty quick, and sub 220s you're just fast. So I would hope that I can get into the 230 range this weekend, but we'll see. Hopefully I get used to the car and learn the track quickly so we can take advantage of the time we have. So let's go ahead and head that way. I do not remember Louisville traffic being this bad. This is ridiculous. Alright guys, so we are here. We've made it to the track. It's the first Saturday morning session coming up, and I can't wait to see how this goes. So this is my first time at the track again. I've got an instructor today, which is really nice, so they can help me figure out the track and learn the turns and everything like that. But yeah, this track is really, really nice. They've got a big concession stand, they've got a gift shop, a lot of garages, just a really nice setup over here. So if you guys haven't been, I definitely recommend coming out. Also, of course, try to run with the KYPCA. These guys have been awesome to run with for the past several years, so that's why I always run with them, and I can't wait to do more events with them in the future. But yeah, lots of cool cars here. I'll be posting a video on my Patreon to show everybody kind of what's out here. But I mean, we've got some electric cars, we've got SUVs, just a really wide range of products. Even though it's a PCA event, they don't only let Porsches on, so lots of different stuff here. So I'll be showing that for the Patreon members as well. But yeah, let's go ahead and get ready for the first session. I've got my brakes swapped, I've got my wheels and tires swapped. So yeah, we're pretty much ready to get on track. So let's see how it goes. So first session is done, and I did have a drivetrain malfunction while I was going around. Once the car started getting hot, it seemed like the wastegate wasn't too happy. It threw a wastegate sluggish code, and then I pulled in, let the car cool off a little bit, checked, and it started showing a code for the wastegate can't find the stop position. So what I'm thinking is pulled the intake and all the heat shielding stuff, and I'm just going to shorten this arm a little bit, like a couple millimeters. I think some people have had this issue where when the car gets hot, the wastegate struggles to find, you know, the closed position. I guess it's getting a little bit longer. And so, yeah, I was good for a couple laps, but once it got really hot, it seemed like it wasn't happy. So we're going to try closing that in just a little bit. Like I said, maybe 2 millimeters, and hopefully this next session goes without a hitch. so good news, we got back on track. Unfortunately, it wasn't just the arm. There was definitely something binding inside of the wastegate, but I found some dry lube. It basically puts a layer of graphite between two metal surfaces, and the good news is it doesn't just evaporate. It's actually kind of, metallic. So not only does it help lubricate, but it also can stay in there. It can withstand high heat, and it should keep it lubricated basically as long as it's there. So for now, I'm feeling pretty good about it. Last session went well, and we're just going to kind of keep an eye on things, and hopefully the rest of the weekend goes hiccup free. But now, problem is I'm slow, so we'll probably get my instructor back in the car for the next session, try to learn the lines and stuff, when to accelerate and brake and how to turn, just to get the most out of the car. And then maybe tomorrow we'll start working on getting some time. So fingers crossed this all goes well. So we are back at the track Sunday morning, and I just got my first session done. This is my first time getting some times now that I'm alone and kind of feel comfortable with the track. And fortunately, I was able to hit my goal. I got a 2:36 on my fastest lap, and that was with a little bit of traffic and making some mistakes as well. So I feel pretty good about that. Overall, the car's been great. It's still having some wastegate codes, which I think I might have to fix when I get home. If there's actually some dirt inside of that flap or something, it'll probably require being removed to clean it out. But when I clear the code and drive, it drives fine. So it just keeps throwing the error when I start the car, and I have to clear it every time. So I'll be keeping an eye on that. Only other issue is it did burn a little bit of oil. It burned about a half quart. So I had to add oil, and I've been keeping an eye on it since I changed my oil filter housing, and it's been fine for the past several months. But I don't know if it's just the high G's and constantly staying at high RPM. It did burn through a little bit, so I'll be keeping an eye on that as well. But we've got one more session. Hoping that it goes well. And again, big thank you to everybody that has been supporting, watching. The car feels great. I'm really happy with how it is. And I think these cars with just a couple simple modifications move really well. I got a bunch of passes from 911s, Caymans, turbos. It's been a good day. Even a Macan, which was a little bit unexpected. I'll be posting a video kind of behind the scenes, doing a paddock walk and showing you guys the cars that are here and stuff for the Patreon members. So look out for that as well. But yeah, let's go ahead and get the second session in and hopefully finish off this weekend strong. Alright guys, so we are finally on our way home, and I'll say overall this was definitely a successful weekend. I got a lot of track time. I definitely learned the track and know it a lot better. Going into that last session I felt a lot more comfortable. Unfortunately, I had a lot of hiccups and it was definitely a learning experience. One big one is I'm probably not going to put my lap timer in front of me ever again. For whatever reason, it was not recording when I was crossing the start line, and so my time stopped counting. And when I noticed that, it was so distracting. And especially noticed because I thought that I was getting like some of my fastest times. And so while it was basically not counting, in my mind, I'm trying to figure out what my lap time is. Like, was it faster than before? Was it slower than before? And then it did it for like 3 laps. And for whatever reason, I just could not focus on the road, which is really what I need to focus on. So that was, of course, frustrating. Definitely a learning experience. Now that I've got the GPS unit on top, I really don't need my phone to be like up on the windshield anymore because I'm going to be getting my GPS data from that race box unit. So for me, I think next time I'm just going to put my phone like in my glove box or something so it's out of the way, and I'll look at the lap times afterwards. At the end of the day, I'm not a good enough driver to make those adjustments to take a second off here and there. So, you know, it's really just a distraction anyway. But other than that, you know, I think it went pretty well once I was able to focus on it. Unfortunately, you know, the session ended, but I did get a faster time. I was able to get it down to a 2:34. I feel like one of those times that it didn't measure were quicker. I think when I did the math, the average was like a 2:36, but I made a lot of mistakes on one of those laps, so I'm hoping the actual fastest lap is more like a 2:32 or 2:33, and hopefully next time when we get here, I can shoot for, you know, 220s, like a 229 or something like that. But I think overall, again, you know, the car held up pretty well. I did have to top off the oil, and then I had the wastegate issue that we were able to work around this weekend. So looking forward, if I were to come back here, I think one of the big things I would need is aero. And it's one of those things nobody wants to talk about because it makes your car look crazy. But in reality, this track definitely benefits a lot from aero, probably more than Putnam, which is more of a momentum track. And as long as you just keep up your speed and keep good traction around those big sweeping turns, you can set some pretty good times. But here, with all the elevation changes and some of those really technical turns, aero would be like a huge benefit. And I definitely don't think it's the end-all be-all. You know, a lot of people are going fast without like a big wing and stuff, but I feel like that would give me probably the most significant improvement, or at least like the biggest increase in confidence. So maybe in the future I'll consider something more modest. You know, I definitely don't want to go crazy on this car, but like a front lip, maybe a rear diffuser or some like paneling or something to help reduce the lift and stuff in the rear end and give me a little bit of downforce would probably be really ideal. But yeah, you know, let me know your guys' thoughts. Is this a track that you're interested in, or have you been here before? Did you see any obvious mistakes that I was making? I'm definitely all ears there. I have a lot of learning to do, so I really don't want to have to, you know, come back here and set the same times. But, you know, it's one of those things where I feel like a lot of times it takes a while to learn this track. And so it'll probably take me a couple HPDEs to really get comfortable and really start setting some times, because some of my friends with pretty basic mods were setting low 220s, and I'd love to get in that range at some point. But again, you know, thank you guys for watching. This was kind of the shakedown with the big turbo kit. More to come in the future. We'll be going back to Putnam Park later this year, and hopefully some other events to continue pushing the car. And I think that's it for this video. So thank you guys for watching, and I hope this helps. And if you have any other questions or comments, leave them down below. Now that I've got the GPS unit on top.
That was a mistake, sorry.